heads and 4 long blue arms.
The Loch Ness Monster.
From outer space.
Eddie just wants to massacre him.
Go on out there and kill them.
Wipe them out. All of them. To the very last man. Violence. Brutality.
Trick-or-treaters are all dead. Isn't it beautiful? Take a walk in the cemetery.
Get eaten up by cannibals.
Celebrate Halloween.
Love and kisses. Femi, baby.
What do you think this is all about? You think this is a fucking costume? This is a way of life.
Hey, Ballbusters, episode 55 coming your way on tonight's special mini review episode. As we have just gotten out of the theater after seeing Captain Marvel, so we kind of wanted to get our, our thoughts and how we really felt about the movie, pretty much as soon as we came out of the theater. Probably, I got home about 10 minutes ago, and we got out of the theater maybe half an hour, 40 minutes ago. So everything's pretty fresh in our head. How you doing over there, man?
Things are going good. I'm kind of like still reeling from the movie, processing everything that I just saw, and looking forward to kind of getting it out there, because this is like, we usually have a process when we go see these movies, and generally we watch them, and like anybody, the discussion that follows afterward is probably the most fun and important. So we decided to curb that for the car ride and save it for here, and here we are.
Well, we touched on some points in the car ride.
We dabbled a little bit, but I mean, like, for how long we've known each other, we couldn't resist talking about a Marvel movie on the way home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very true. So, initial thoughts. So, I didn't go into this movie expecting a whole lot. The trailers didn't do much for me, and I don't know. Maybe a lot of the bad publicity around the movie was kind of bringing me down on it, and I had read a lot of reviews. Most were good. Some of the negative ones, and I was like, all right, I kind of know what to expect. And then I get there, and I'm watching the movie, and I have to say that a lot of the gripes that a lot of the negative reviews were harping on are, in my opinion, complete fallacy. It's just they have no merit.
Non-existent. Like, I was actually kind of skimming the movie myself and trying to see where somebody could take something and kind of spin it out of control, which is basically the definition of what's been happening surrounding this movie. And while I was doing that, I was just like, okay, well, maybe no, not that. How about that? Oh, no. Yeah, no, that doesn't make sense either. I just wasn't finding it. I wasn't seeing any of it, and I definitely see where you're coming from.
Yeah, one of the biggest things was, Brie Larson and her emotion in the movie, and the whole thing with her not smiling and her not showing emotion. Well, when you watch the movie, you understand why in certain scenes and in certain situations that she is, cold emotion-wise. You understand why. But would I say that she is completely void of emotion? Hell no. She turns out to be quite possibly the most endearing character we have seen in a solo outing.
Without a doubt. I said charming on the way home, and I completely agree on that front. Like, she definitely has a way about her. She's very.
She's got something about her, and when she turns on that charm, she turns it on hard. It's hard not to smile in some of those more endearing scenes that she's in. But then she is in scenes where she's cold. You're not going to see a smile. Her emotion is very, stoic. But it's explained why.
It's all in the context of the movie itself as to why things are like this. And it makes perfect sense. It's not even like hidden deep underneath like assumptions and reading between the lines. It's right there.
It's pretty much right there on the surface of the movie. They're not trying to hide anything about this character. Everything is wide open. So any reviews you read where it says, she's lacking emotion, now obviously they missed, like a third of the movie where she's full of emotion, and then they missed the other 3/4 of the movie where they're building up the character and explaining why she's the way she is. So, yeah, complete fallacy on that part. You're also going to read a lot of reviews that tell you that Goose steals the show. I saw this in at least 5 reviews I read. Goose steals the show. And if you don't know who Goose is the cat. Does Goose have a couple scenes? Yeah, a couple little small scenes, nothing major. Does Goose steal the show? No. I don't know where people are getting this. Does he have a funny scene? Does the cat have a cute scene? Yeah. I think altogether, screen time-wise, maybe a minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes at best. And I am really stretching it at that point. Steal the show? No. Not in the least. Not even close.
For cat people, they automatically have that way about them. They're automatically super into the cat, and I think just because there's a cat walking around I'm not going to spoil it, but a cat walking around the place, they automatically give it a B+ right off the bat, and then anything else that comes after the fact is pretty much like it's a bonus. So, as a cat person, I enjoy cats. I think Goose is great. It was a really fun little addition. The interactions between Fury and Goose are probably one of my favorite things because it just adds so much more to the Nick Fury character that you never knew would have ever been there. And I think that's what really brings it in. And again, it's one of the more charming aspects of the film.
Yeah. Now, if I had to, I don't know if I could pick somebody who stole the show. I really liked Brie. I think seeing, Sam Jackson front, in the entire movie was just a fantastic. It's been so long since we had such a, Samuel L. Jackson, Nick Fury centric movie, and this really, really kind of it hit the spot. It's like I was craving more Nick Fury in my life, and this movie delivers. And it's not, and it is a very different yet shades of the Nick Fury we see later in the MCU, but it's still a very different Nick Fury, and I really, really enjoyed it. I said, he looked really good. They did a fantastic job de-aging him. I was hoping for a little bit more Clark Gregg. We only got him in a handful of scenes, and it's good to see that his character was so aware in the beginning of his career. It's great foreshadowing of just how he is later in the Marvel Universe.
That's my biggest disappointment in the movie, unfortunately. When Clark Gregg was announced to be coming back as Coulson, a younger Coulson, obviously, it was one of those situations where you're just like, you just finished watching multiple seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. You witnessed his death in the Avengers and how he's come back from that. And frankly, for those people that haven't watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Past the first season, it has gotten significantly good. And the character work by Clark Gregg is just, it's top notch. So when I found out he was coming back, I was kind of psyched, because I figured this would be like a trio type of movie, not like a buddy cop type film, where I figured Agent Coulson, Nick Fury, and Captain Marvel were going to kind of like do whatever, go out and do their thing. He kind of hung in the back, for the most part. But the scenes that he was in, like you said, they really shined a light of where his character would be and how much of an asset he was at the very beginning of the career. And, it really adds to everything that I've seen in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and, all the character appearances since then. So I really, really dug that, especially like the end scene with him and everything, and a few of the scenes within, in the context of the film. We're not talking spoilers right now, so I kind of painted myself in a corner there, but
yeah. And I'd be remiss to not address a couple of other actresses who really stood out and they really commanded their scenes very well. First would be Annette Bening, who played the Supreme Intelligence and technically the original Mar-Vell in this universe. She was fantastic. It just very she was very present in her scenes. A very commanding role and powerful in a very different way than what you would imagine. I really liked both characters, because she technically plays two characters in the movie, who look exactly the same, because they're kind of the same character, but they're not the same character. It's a little confusing, but if you watch the movie, it makes 100% sense. But I loved how much screen time that she actually got. I was very happy about that. Lashana Lynch, who plays Maria Rambeau, loved her in it. She really brought out the human side of Carol in this movie and helped her actually develop more into her character about halfway through. So that was a very welcoming character, and she did a great job. And another character, Akira Akbar, I love that name, plays Monica Rambeau, Maria's daughter, and she was fantastic. Like, I hope we see her in a couple more years, in a few more movies, because... What?
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, I'm going to call this now, like, if they ever get into these new versions of the characters, like, I could see her playing Ironheart.
Well, as I said, Monica Rambeau, actually plays a different version of Captain Marvel in the comics. So, we could
wink and set up.
Yeah, so we could actually see her, in 5-10 years as another version of this character, or as a maybe version of Miss Marvel, or something. She actually becomes a superhero in the comics. So, it was really nice to see that character, and Akira Akbar was amazing in her role. She really a cute kid, and you liked watching her on screen. Like, it was really believable, and I don't know, I really enjoyed the scenes she was in.
Yeah, these days, like, kid actors, and not all kid actors, but a lot of them have this kind of, not dumbed down, but kind of like, they don't feel like real kids to me when I watch them on screen. And her performance in this particular movie, it felt very authentic, and I really like that about her character.
So, if you had to kind of place this movie in like a more particular genre, what genre would you put this in? I mean, obviously it's a comic book movie and it's an action movie, but a lot of these Marvel movies kind of fall into other subgenres. You know,
it's
you have
a little bit of a road trip movie too. Like, there's a lot of aspects to it.
I mean, me personally, like, Ant-Man, it's a heist movie, and Captain America, period piece, and Winter Soldier is like a political thriller, espionage type movie. And I had to put this one in one of those little subgenre categories. It's kind of like a buddy cop detective movie, almost in a way.
Yeah, no doubt. And it also has those elements of, like people being held down, like the cadet that enters training camp and is always looked down upon, and they're not tough enough to do it. They're never going to be able to do it. And Brie Larson's character pretty much faces that not only on Earth but also in like the Kree universe. And that's not too much of a spoiler. You learn that in trailers, but there's definitely those elements added within it too. But like to put it into a box, it's a little bit more difficult than the other movies that have come before it. And I think it's a good thing because it keeps your attention moving, and it keeps, the landscapes are evolving just as much as the character is.
Yeah. There were a lot of things I really enjoyed about this movie, but like with all, movies I like, there are aspects I do not like. And there was one aspect of this movie that really bugged me, and I was hoping they would do better, and they failed, in my opinion. And that was the soundtrack. It was entirely uninspiring. So it was like super cliche 90s songs. They didn't even attempt to go back wall with any artist or any song or anything. They was just like, top 40 90 songs from like the mid 90s. That's what they were playing. And it was, I was really expecting, you watch Guardians of the Galaxy and that soundtrack is inspired, man. It's fucking inspired, and it fits, and it works so well with the characters. This movie, it's just like, I was cringing in some parts with the music choice, and there's one battle scene in particular with oh god, it was just.
Wasn't it No Doubt played?
Oh god, I cringed so hard. I'm like, really? Like they had sort of a theme going in the very beginning when Carol gets to Earth. Not to spoil anything, and I'm not really spoiling anything. We all know she's going to get to Earth. And they kind of like set her up for more of a grunge-like character, and you were expecting, some good grunge music to play, and you get one cliche bullshit Nirvana song, and that's just me saying that because I fucking can't stand Nirvana. And then they never really capitalized on that. Like you could see that being her genre of music, like her being into Stone Temple Pilots and Pearl Jam and fucking Soundgarden. Like, oh, like that would have been perfect. Fucking play Soundgarden. And so we get fucking Nirvana, man. Like, fuck. So, and some of the other songs, it was just like, I think I heard fucking TLC, and I think I heard
in it at the end.
I think I heard Salt and Pepper, and what was at the end?
Hole, Courtney Love.
Oh, Hole, yeah, you fucking can't have Nirvana without fucking Hole.
Yep, I think that was probably like a package deal, like just to relinquish rights to one song in a movie. One of hers probably had to come.
So that was my biggest complaint, is that the soundtrack was just really uninspired and lacking big time, and it was just very cliche, and they could have done so much better.
I completely agree with you on that, and it was very distracting.
I thought you were going to disagree. I thought you were going to say you liked the soundtrack.
All right, so here's the thing. I grew up in the '90s. I'm older
we
than
both
you,
did.
But
we both did.
We grew up. We were in metal circles, punk rock, skate music, and shit. So like, it was only natural for you to come in contact with these type of songs. Nirvana. I happen to be not a pretty huge Nirvana fan, but I really enjoy the music. Hole I tolerated, and then there's some other artists that are very obviously the artists that are on the soundtrack. They're very obviously top 40s, and you had to be asleep in order to not hear those songs. So when they popped up in the scenes, you were just, oh, here's what they're going for. You know, you immediately got taken out of the movie and got reminded that this movie takes place in the 90s. And I don't think it was necessarily needed for that many moments where it was like, hey, guess what? 90s movie, check it out. Look at your, remember Blockbuster? Yeah, totally. You have one of those too. I'm surprised we didn't see like a talk boy, you know, like from Home Alone. There were so many elements tossed in the movie that had to continuously remind you that they were from the 90s, and the music was probably the most glaring. Some of the stuff that you've seen in the background and, you know, characters interacted with, it was nice to kind of bring you home because you haven't seen any of that shit in 30 years. But all the same, the music was, if it fit the scenes a little bit better, if they choreographed what was happening in the scenes and maybe kind of like edited it to the song a little bit better, I think it would have been less distracting. I keep saying distracting, but
no, you're 100% right. Like when the cop rolls down his window and fucking Salt and Pepper's blasting, it's like, oh, really? Do we have to be that fucking on the nose here? We get it.
On the nose is definitely it.
But there were some scenes where like the 90s aspect worked. Like I thought the internet cafe scene was great. I loved that little scene.
Or a scene later on in the movie, and not spoiling. All I'm just gonna say is loading.
Yeah, I like that. I get that, and that I loved those little kind of 90s jabs. It's like, oh, look, a Blockbuster and a Radio Shack. Okay, yeah, we're in the 90s.
I did like the Radio Shack scene, to be honest, because what she was asking for really kind of like give me a smirk.
But yeah, I mean, we're talking about we got Salt and Pepper, Elastica, Garbage. There was a Garbage song. I forgot Garbage was on it. TLC. Yeah. They play fucking Waterfalls. Like you couldn't even play like a fucking B-side TLC song. You had to go Waterfalls.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Nirvana. Seriously, God, No Doubt, Just a Girl. That fucking scene. The scene is great. The song is just like it ruins the scene. It ruins it. It mars an otherwise really fun scene. So fuck that song. REM. I don't remember hearing REM, but apparently it's on the soundtrack.
I don't remember.
Hole. Yeah, Hole was there. It's like it was just super uninspiring, and it was the biggest letdown in this movie. And I was really expecting something special, and yeah, they just didn't deliver on the soundtrack front. And even the original scores were very, very tame and just basic. Maybe if I listened to them by themselves without, backing scenes and dialogue and sound effects and everything, maybe I could like them better. But for the few I was actually picking up on the background during the movie, the original pieces weren't really doing it for me.
It's really weird that you were on that same sort of wavelength as me, because a few scenes, not to say things weren't happening, things were happening, but like there wasn't dialogue. It was more visually stimulating. So you kind of found yourself like just kind of sinking into the background of the scene, the music. And it really made me sit there and question, like, why don't they go for iconic themes anymore? Like, why do they continuously just look for tone? Like when you hear the Avengers theme, and that's probably one of the more recent iconic themes, that gives you chills. When you hear Oingo Boingo guy, what's his name? Help me out here.
Danny Elfman.
Exactly. When you hear his Batman score, you know shit's about to go down. But then you hear the background tracks, to Captain Marvel, and you see her running around doing her thing, dodging lasers, bullets, whatever the fuck. And you're just like, yeah, this is just like tone. It's meant for feeling, and I think those more iconic sounding tracks invoke more emotion than these just tones. Like they're very impressive pieces. They take an entire orchestra to conduct, but they're not. They're completely forgettable. You're not going to sit there and hear these things 15 years from now and get nostalgic like you would with Elfman's work, or John Williams.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. And it's been an issue with a lot of the Marvel movies. Sans obviously the Avengers theme, which is just freaking amazing, and it sends chills up my spine, down my spine every time I hear it. I thought the original score in the first Guardians movie was fantastic. Probably my favorite original scores from all the Marvel movies. Oh, in the first Iron Man movie, man, are you kidding me? When he first takes flight in his suit, in the Mark II, dude, like, so good, so fucking good. And it just seems like from there on out, they just kept hitting, like, this movie, yeah, not so good. This movie, not so good. This movie, not so good. Okay, here we go. We got a really good one with original scores. And then it's like every 4 or 5 movies, they finally hit it again with good scores. And, it's sad that this one didn't really have it. And the soundtrack was lacking, too. It was just, music-wise, bad on all fronts. I can't say anything nice right now about the music.
And it's not for lack of talent. I just think it's the way the genre shifted. The background score music shifted and moved into an area where it was, completely different. Somebody at one point decided, oh, well, let's move away from this stuff that really stands out and kind of just layer a real smooth, mellow score behind it. And everybody kind of just took flight. Maybe it's a little easier to do with so much big budget movies being put into production, but the art still exists. I mean, I can't think of the guy's name right now, but the dude that does scores for Game of Thrones, there are so many songs in that show that you'll just hear the beginning of, and then you'll get the chills from the moment where you've seen things play out in the show. It exists, but for some whatever reason, Hollywood's just not capitalizing on it anymore.
Yeah, no, you're right. It seems like original scores have really taken a third row backseat in a lot of these movies. And I don't know why. There are so many talented composers out there, so many talented musicians, and they're just, I don't know if it's the studios holding them back, or they can't find that sweet spot for the movie or the scenes. I don't know, and I really do hope it changes, because we need more of those Iron Man original scores and that Guardians original score and the Avengers original themes and stuff. That's what we need, and we're just not getting it right now. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's give our final thoughts here. I know you wanted to dive into spoilers, but
no, I'm completely content with how this went. This went a little bit better than I expected.
So let's get into final thoughts here. So I as I said, I went into this movie not expecting much. I came out really, really liking it. And I think what I might do is when the movie comes out, I might try to rip out that shit soundtrack and add my own inspired soundtrack over it. I know I can do a better job. It'll probably be a whole soundtrack of Soundgarden. No.
Get some Faith No More in there, man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Are you kidding me? Like,
mic drop.
Seriously, like they could have done. I have the soundtrack in my head. I am doing that. I am ripping out that garbage, and I am putting my own soundtrack over this movie, and we'll do a movie night, and we'll watch my version of the movie, and it's going to be magical.
I'm intrigued.
All the actors and actresses really pulled their weight hard. Fantastic all around. Again, you're going to read a lot of negative reviews, and some people really didn't like the movie, and that's fine. I'm not going to sit here and start boycott them and, go all fucking Brianna Wu on them and let's get their reviews taken down because they're men and they didn't like it. Oh my God, you don't like the movie, that's fine. But I will say, don't buy into Brie Larson being completely lacking emotion, and don't buy into Goose stealing the show. Both of these things are just they don't hold water. They're not true. So at the end of the day, I really, really liked this movie. I liked it a lot. I may go see it again because in the very beginning, I was sort of just kind of down on the movie. And again, as I said, I wasn't expecting much, so I wasn't like amped up for it. So like the first 15, 20 minutes, I was just kind of like yeah, okay, this is happening, and it really grows, and it grows fast, and it grabs you real hard at one point, and it never lets go. And that's what I like in my movies. So I didn't think I would get this high, but I would say I would probably give it like an 8.5 out of 10. That's how much I overly enjoyed it, and it's again mainly because I wasn't expecting much going into it, and then I came out and absolutely loved it.
Right on, man. Right on. I had expectations before the movie. The trailers, unlike you, did something for me. I really enjoyed what was being presented, and usually they showed those pretty epic looking space battles with, Captain Marvel in full suit just wrecking shit. And that was the selling point. That's what was kind of like sending a chill down my spine when I see a trailer. And I cut myself off rather early because I really didn't want to see everything. And I know the initial trailers are usually very well done for Marvel, and then they just go completely off the rails and show us the entire fucking movie. So I hit the brakes a little bit. I dealt and mostly ignored the noise that was surrounding the movie. So I went into this movie with, pretty decent expectations, but not like overly through the roof like I am for Endgame. So going into it, I expected pretty much what I ended up getting. Brie Larson, I've loved her in a lot of other movies. I've seen her act younger in older films, and I know what she's capable of. So all this hype around her not being charismatic or really being into the movie or into the character, I knew was a bunch of bullshit right off the bat. One thing that came kind of as a surprise to me is that this movie felt very much like an old Marvel movie, and I don't say like the Daredevil types or the Ghost Rider. I'm talking the very early workings of the MCU, Iron Man, Captain America, Thor. It felt very grounded, even though this thing went from space to Earth, back to space, back to Earth, and all this crazy epic shit happened in between. Mm-hmm. But it still felt very much like grounded to home, something that's relatable. You could definitely see and appreciate the journey that her character went on and is about to go on. One of my favorite things of the entire thing, the entire film, is the point A to point Z, a road that she traveled on, and it really set up what's going to be going down in Avengers Endgame. And that's obviously that kind of like hook of bait that leads you into the next movie is always something that us fans kind of really die for.
Yeah.
And in summation, the movie is just very, very engaging, very entertaining, and a really amazing introduction for a new character, a long-awaited, strong female character. And one thing I want to also discredit that I didn't get a chance to earlier, this whole movement of people seeing and supposedly reading between the lines and seeing that Disney has an agenda and they're trying to push some sort of political scheme or social justice scheme. It's none of that. At the very most, there's element of girl power in there, and there should be. There should be an encouraging female hero to look up to as a young kid today, or even as an adult. Sometimes you need a little bit of extra confidence booster, and if you see that in a fictional character, whether it be in Star Wars or a Marvel movie, so be it. Life sucks. Like, we have a lot of things that weigh us down, and if we see a little inspiration in a superhero movie, so be it, man. It's not that big of a deal. So I think it hit pretty much every beat that it needed to hit, fired on all cylinders, and finally it gave a very, very touching tribute to Stan Lee after his passing. That we're not going to spoil it. We're going to let you see it for what it is, but just bring the Kleenex. I'm just saying. So as far as a number rating, I probably agree with you. Go 8.5.
Yeah, and the whole female empowerment thing, it really actually is spearheaded by the youngest character in the film, Monica, and she does a great job of empowering both, and looking up to both Brie Larson's character as a superhero and just loving the fact that she's doing so much good, and looking up and helping empower her own mother in the movie. And it's a really awesome scene between mother and daughter. You'll know exactly
you'll
know exactly the scene I'm talking to, and there'll be plenty of probably angry men who will spout their bullshit, their social justice bullshit. As much as I hate that fucking word,
same.
But it is not even like remotely on that level. It's a endearing, and I've said that a couple times now. I've used that word a bit, but it is. It's really endearing. It's touching. It's powerful. It's raw.
Real life.
It's raw.
We all experience these type of moments in our everyday world, not in these like little computers and phones and stuff. It's those touching moments that really define us as people, regardless of sex. And like you said, they pretty much hit it right out of the park for that.
Yep. So read some positive reviews, read some negative reviews. Make sure you read the right negative reviews. If you want to know which ones to avoid, fucking go back and listen to Wednesday's, yesterday's episode, and I get into a little rant about, what fucking reviews you should ignore based on what the first couple of sentences say. Because there are aspects of the movie that some people aren't going to like, and that's fair. But a lot of the aspects that people are nitpicking are just not warranted, and you can't really go by that. So read some positive reviews, read some negative reviews, and then honestly, please go see the movie for yourself. I have plenty of people on my Twitter, plenty of obviously white males on my Twitter who are thinking that they're making a stand not seeing this movie because they didn't agree with Brie Larson said. Listen, again, that is not the point. You don't agree what she said. At the end of the day, did she say anything that really wasn't that far-fetched? Think about it. I love the movie. I may go see it again. You people should go see it and make your own judgment. Don't judge the movie based on what an actress said. Base the movie on what the movie does. Base it on its own merits. Don't be a sheep.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more and echo the same sentiments. I'm not a review guy myself. I glance at them after I'm done seeing them, but I'm the type of person that likes to go in and just kind of experience it for what it is. I talked a lot yesterday about escapism in cinema, and that's what it is for me. And I enjoy traveling through these crazy timelines in all these fictional worlds, and you should too. You shouldn't let any of those type of things kind of weigh down your experience. You should just go in there with an open mind. As long as you're into the subject matter, just kind of go on it and take a journey. And that's all movies really are. It's a journey to kind of see a world that you're never going to see in your lifetime. And believe for a moment that those things can exist. They could be something more, maybe inspire you to be a better person as a result. And I think that's the best way to go into cinema in general, regardless if it's a Marvel movie, DC movie, horror movie, even though I don't see how you can really be too inspired. Maybe a little bit. But, it exists throughout the entire genre.
Hey, man, we watched an inspiring horror movie fucking Friday night.
That we did. Yeah, you're right. So, no, it pretty much, it's a like a vibration that goes through any sort of fictional media. And I think that's how you should experience it.
Yep.
That's just me.
I agree. So that's how we felt about the movie. We really enjoyed it. We hope anybody who is kind of deterred from, because of all the drama surrounding this movie, kind of puts that aside and gives it a shot. I'm telling you, you're going to be very, very pleased, especially if you ignore the shitty music that they picked. It's a great movie. And I hope you guys can go and make your own judgments and not judge, base it on nonsense. It's not fair to the movie. It's not fair to the people who made the movie. It's just not fair. And it's not fair to you as a fan, especially if you're a fan of, comic book movies and Marvel in general. It's not fair to you. I've had my problems with Marvel, with the bullshit with James Gunn, and James Gunn doesn't seem to be too sour about it. He lands on his feet. He's got a horror movie coming out. He's working for, doing a DC movie now. So, I kind of put my hard feelings aside, and, I'm glad I did. I'm still mad at them, and, maybe in a year or two down the road, maybe they'll change their mind. They'll bring him back. But that shouldn't make me not enjoy good film. And I'm hoping you guys can kind of feel the same way. So, that is going to wrap it up for us. We actually went a little bit longer than I thought we were going to, but as I said, good movie. When you watch a good movie for the first time, you got a lot to say. We got a lot to say. We didn't even get it all out. I may be writing an actual written review for the website. I got to see if I have I got to see if I have fucking time tomorrow to knock that out. I'd like to do it tomorrow while everything is still fresh up here, but we got to see. Fucking work has been absolutely miserable lately, so we will see what happens. But you got anything else to add before I sign us off?
No, I'm very good. Anything else that I want to talk about, we'll probably talk about a little bit later here and there in another episode, or in the podcast. But go see it, go have fun, really enjoy yourself, and bring somebody that might inspire them. Bring a nephew or niece or son or daughter. Just go out there and enjoy yourselves.
Indeed. So thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you guys if you're watching this on a replay. Thank you very much. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. I'm not going through that spiel. You can see it down here. You can see Mungus' Twitter. You can follow Dead Entertainment Twitter at Dead End Site. You like us on Facebook. All that good stuff that I say every Wednesday night. I'm not saying it all again now. But thank you guys so much. We will see you next week for Wednesday night's episode. And until then, remember.
What do you think this is all about? You think this is a fucking costume? This is a way of life.